Hey guys, welcome back to the Forever World. We're coming to that point in this world where we need to start thinking about getting villagers so that we can get our mending together. But right now we have nothing good to trade with them. So, today we are going to be expanding the farming area to include melons, pumpkins, and sugarcane. We're also going to be terraforming a new section of this world which I've been looking forward to for a long time. This entire area here is going to be getting a massive overhaul today. In anticipation for this project, I've been collecting resources for a few days, and it may look like I have a lot of stone here, but I'm probably going to need more. And I'm definitely going to need more dirt, but we'll collect a lot of those resources off camera and on stream during the course of this video. But let's climb up to the top of our nether portal here and talk about what we've got to do during this video, because I got big plans. So here we are at the top of the nether portal, and it is very unfinished. The plan for today is to connect this back to the original mountain behind us here, and also to expand the other side there where the windmill is across to the mountain as well. On both sides, this side and that side, we're going to add more farms, including our melon, pumpkin, and sugarcane farms. And we're going to build them into plateaus like I kind of have going up here. This will be one of the farms. This cliff face is going to go back to the mountain there, and we're going to start another one over there that's going to run back around that house there. There's going to be a bit of a gap between this cliff face and the cliff face that we're building over there, and that's going to make a valley going down the center here. Then we're going to run a bridge from this cliff to that cliff, and we're going to run a waterfall down the center. Where that waterfall is going to go, I don't know, but we'll figure it out. Now, let's see if we can't outline what we just talked about there. Alright, it's a rough outline, but I've got something down now. So this center area right here is where the waterfall is going to come down, and it's going to go down the center here, right where we have this stone pillar marked. And then on this side, it's going to be a lot more than just this line that we've marked, but this is where the main cliff face is going to be, and it's going to run along this way and loop around over here behind the windmill. Now, obviously we're limited in the amount of stone that we have since, I don't have a beacon or anything like that, so we don't want to have to do more terraforming than we need to. So I think the first thing we're going to do is expand this dirt area behind the windmill here out to the line. And that'll give us our first area to make a new farm as well. Now, I ran a stream recently where we gathered some more stone here, and we gathered a whole bunch of dirt as well, so we are well equipped for this. So with this being our highest point here, let's bring it back to the line. Alrighty, we're starting to make some progress on our terraforming here. Burning child. Everything's fine. Anyways, we got this big flat area up here behind the windmill now, and I'm thinking we'll put either the pumpkin or the melon patch back here. I'm leaning towards the melon patch. So while I think about how I want to do the crop and we wait for the grass to spread, I'm actually going to place some more dirt on the back side here. I want to try and cover up this river here. This episode's going to have a lot of terraforming in it, so I hope you guys are buckled in for that, because we're going to start raising up the terrain a little bit, and we're going to connect it up with that hill over there. My spidey senses are telling me I did not get enough dirt, because yeah, we're basically through the first chest already. Anyways, we know that we're going to have the cliff coming along this way, and it's going to come up to this point here, and probably carry on back to the hill over there. So from about this point here, we're going to start raising the terrain up by a block. And then around here, let's start planning out how much we want the terrain to elevate on its way back to the hill across the river here. Now, this is just a preliminary plan. We can always change it as we go if we decide that we want more of a slope or less of a slope or anything in between, really. And here we are all connected up. So it looks something kind of like that. I actually think over here I want it to start getting a little bit steeper so that it hits higher up the hill here. Something more like that. I think that looks a bit better. And now we got to figure out how to handle this side here. First things first, I think we got to lose all these trees here. There we go, that should work a little better. Now we're going to choose a point a little bit lower than here, so maybe 1, 2, 3 layers down, so about here. And we're going to expand this out to hit this hill over here. And there we go. Actually, I think this middle part here needs to be pushed back a little bit. So instead of going like that. I think it should come more in like this. There we go. I think this works a little bit better. And let's see how it looks from the front. And not terrible. I think it needs more of a curve though. Actually, you know what? I think that's the point that's messing me up here. Let's make this more flat. There we go. That's looking a bit better, I think. We'll probably alter it as we go, but it's a good place to start. Okay, so the plan is that we build this terrain up to this point, and then we start converging this terrain in on that up there, while also connecting this side part up to our flat area where the melon field's gonna be. All right, we got a lot of dirt to place, so terraforming time-lapse number 2. Let's go. Now that was a lot of dirt, but a piece of terraforming that we've had hanging over our heads since episode 3 is now complete. Or complete-ish. I've got most of this side finished all the way up to that point right there. So up here, I haven't connected this to anything yet because I think the best course of action is to do the cliff face first, and then return to this side to connect everything up. But we're gonna take a little break from terraforming for now because, well, I'm out of dirt again. And I do want to do something else, so we're gonna start working on the melon field over here. And keeping in the theme of our crops that we already have, we are going to need some cobblestone. Thank God I actually had some. I figured there was a 50-50 chance, and it would have been real awkward if I was wrong. Alright, back up here on top of the hill, we're just gonna outline how we want our melon patch to go. And yes, I am fully aware that I keep saying melon patch, field, and crop interchangeably. There we go, I think this is a pretty good shape for the field. Now we just gotta go around and make it look, you know, more interesting than just a cobblestone wall. There we go, this is looking pretty good, I think. So I'm not planning on doing rows of melons like you normally would in a farm like this. What I'm planning on doing is taking a more decorative approach. So I want to plot out a small path going through the field here. I am aware that this does cut down on the space that I have to actually grow the crops, but that's not a big deal to me. Okay, now that I've got the path going through here, it's time to kind of strategically plan out where we're going to put our melon seeds. And for the time being, I'm just going to mark out where I want the seeds with some coarse dirt. Now, I am fully aware that the way that I'm laying this out is not in any way efficient. But once again, we're going for more of the decorative look, so it'll work out in the end. There we go, I've plotted out where I want all of my melon stalks to go. So I have actually gone and grabbed all of my melon slices, so we'll convert those into seeds now. And we'll go around and plant one in each of these spots here. Alright, I didn't have enough watermelon seeds to cover all of these spots, but you may notice that I haven't done any water anywhere here. And because of that, these are gonna grow incredibly slowly or not at all. And that's why I've brought this with me. Hydration actually only plays a part in growing the stalks here. Once they're grown, they, well, Exhibit A, they will grow melons regardless of if they are hydrated or not. So that means that we don't have to waste the space in the crop on water, especially since we only need the stalk to grow once. It's not like we're making a wheat field or anything like that where we're constantly harvesting and regrowing it. So I'm gonna get melons in all of these spots and we will go from there. We got melons, and as you can see, they are all growing nicely without any hydration, so we're well on our way here. Now the next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to start swapping out some of the dirt for coarse dirt here. Actually, I'm just going to swap it all out for coarse dirt. And now we have a cool looking melon field that absolutely no melons will grow in, because melons actually can't grow on coarse dirt. It has to be regular dirt or podzol or grass or something of the sort. So around the stalks, we're just going to go ahead and slap it with the hoe in places that we want the melons to grow. So for example, right here, I don't really want a melon to grow here because it's right next to the path, so I'm going to leave that as coarse dirt. But in areas that we do want melons to grow, we will just slap it with the hoe and we will, well, we'll wait. Now this is definitely a waste of coarse dirt, but I just wanted to show you guys how this worked. So I'm not going to do it again with the with the pumpkin patch because it's the same mechanics. And now I'll cry over the fact that I used all of my gravel for this demonstration. Then we'll throw a little bit more green in here to spice things up a little bit. And I think this is looking pretty good. Now, there's obviously still some more work that I can do. Maybe put a little bit of tall grass in there or some lanterns if, I can figure out where I put all my lanterns. But I want to move on to working on a little house over here. I'm thinking maybe around here somewhere, nothing massive. Maybe, yeah, that seems about good. Then like that, and then maybe bump forward one for a little entryway, and then bring it back like this. Yeah, that's nice and small. Doesn't take up a lot of space, but also gives us a little something up here. All right, let's figure out the rest then. There we go, we got a nice little worker hut here. Now I'm just gonna go ahead and run the path over to it. Then we'll also run the path this way here to meet up with the other entrance to the farm and link it up to the windmill. And then we can run the path from this area, whatever we want to call it here. Mountain staircase? Cliff staircase? I still don't really know what to call it, and I'm not super happy with it yet either. Maybe we'll play around with it later today, but we got to run that over to the path here too to connect everything up. And there we go. We're pretty well done with this area here, I think. We still got to do a run with coarse dirt, but like I mentioned earlier, I kind of wasted it all on the melon patch. Time to move on to the next part of the terraforming, which is the cliff here. This is probably the part I'm most excited for, but also the most afraid of. I have a very specific vision of how I want this area to look, and I'm hoping that I can make it actually work. As I mentioned before, this is going to be a pretty time-lapse heavy episode, but once we move on to working on the valley here, we will actually be doing stuff real time. So let's get this time-lapse here out of the way. And yeah, this is going to be a big one here, so let's do it. You have no idea how many hours worth of block placing this was. But I got all of the cliff faces up and it is looking pretty good so far. But there is one thing that I forgot to do basically the entire time. Can you guess what that something is? Let's take a closer look. How about now? Can you guess what it is? It is a little bit dark and dangerous up here. Or I guess down here, and anyone who's been around for a while knows that a staple of the Kingelffe channel is the Mad Torch Dash, because I am infamous for never lighting up my terraforms, or my builds, or anything really. I will say the fact that I do this all the time makes it so that I'm really good at the Mad Torch Dash. I've very rarely ever died from doing this. There we go, I think I've gotten most of this side. Now it's time to see the damage on the other side. But first, let's just check out how cool this looks from the underside. That is a huge terraform, and we've still got more to do. Maybe not today, but more to do. You know what? I don't even think there's a way into this side. Oh, wait a minute. No, up here, there's a way in. Okay, it's not quite as scary under here. We've got part of the village which had a bunch of lights in it. There we go, we've lit up most of it. Alrighty, I think the next thing we gotta do is fix up this ravine and the mountain behind us, cause it's looking a little ugly, and it's not gonna work super well for a waterfall either. First things first though, this house has got to go. There we go, much better without the house already. Now you can kind of see how we have the terrain going from down at that point right there all the way up to this point. We've got kind of a U shape in the center, following all the way up to this point right here, and we want to continue that all the way back to the mountain. Just going layer by layer here. It probably still needs a little bit of work, but let's fill it in and see how it looks. Alright, we have our valley here complete. Or at least until we start on the river, that is. But before we nail down the river, I want to get the waterfall in place, which I'm now realizing is going to be a task all on its own. This mountain is not exactly built for a waterfall, so we're going to have to do some massive renovations. And unfortunately, our resource stocks are dwindling on both the stone and the dirt front. But maybe once we start tearing up this mountain, we'll have a bit more at our disposal. Alright, so standing at the top of the mountain here, we have a few challenges we gotta overcome. The first of which being, this is pretty split level all the way down. We got a plateau here, then we got another one here, then we got another one there, and then we head down towards the bottom where our river will be. So I'm not exactly sure what the smartest decision is here, but we're just gonna start doing something and, well, it's gonna have to work. And what I'm thinking we're gonna do is we're gonna rip out some of these plateaus. Try and give a more defined route for our waterfall. There we go, that's a little bit of an easier face to work with. Really? Oh, okay, you think so too? Okay, I'll let them know. Guess what? Bear says hi. He also says subscribe. I know, he's such a demanding cat. Anyways, what I was going to say before we were so rudely interrupted by Bear is we're going to start laying out the waterfall now, and I don't want it to just be a flat waterfall coming straight down. I want to give it some, I don't know what the right word is, shape, intrigue, unboringness, I don't know. Whatever the word is, the waterfall is going to be starting up there, and I figure if we build it between there and this point here, we'll have a pretty cool waterfall. But now it's time for the really hard part. This is a much bigger waterfall than I'm used to dealing with, and I do not know how this is going to turn out. I can only assume that my first attempt is going to be a spectacular failure, but we will see. Have a shape something kind of like this, I guess? We'll start with this. I don't know how it'll end up. Actually, what I wouldn't mind doing is maybe around this point right here. Let's build out a little bit. So the waterfall will come down to here, then we'll have a little pool. Then maybe we bump this out a little bit further and we basically do the same thing. Now let's wing it out on the side here a little bit too. This is going to be kind of the wall of the waterfall, and we'll just build it up as a straight wall for now and we'll see how it looks. Now I know I'm gonna have to make a lot of alterations to this, but this is just the first step, or at least it's what I'm assuming the first step is. Like I said, I've never done a waterfall of this size before. Actually, on second thought, let's tear this wall down. I have a different idea. Alright, so looking at it from the front, we just have the waterfall basically coming down the center here. And if we wing it out from the center like we were trying to do there with the wall, it's just going to be a waterfall in the dead center of this ravine, which might look a little weird. We don't want it in the center, so we're going to build up to where this little pool is going to be, and let's just give it a little outline here. There we go, that's pretty good. Now let's kill this here. Alright, now looking at it from the bottom, we have a few different things that we can do with our waterfall, and I think that I want to have a piece coming down from here, and maybe another one coming down from there and kind of converging around here somewhere. So let's play around with that idea a little bit. Alrighty, so this is kind of the path that I want the water to take going down to the bottom here. I've also built up a little bit of a wall here to hold it back, because we're just going to drop some water in there and see what happens. Now, if you'll remember last episode, I told you working with water sucks, and sometimes you just have to jump straight in. Right, it didn't even spread everywhere I want it to. Alright, change of plan. We gotta build up this area up here and fill it with water first, and then we can release the dam to actually get an accurate idea of what this is gonna look like. There we go, we got a little lake up here. And now let's see what happens if we just release the dam in the area that we want the waterfall to be. Okay, cool, it does follow the path that we want it to. We always knew it was going to be a mess because I didn't put up any sort of guardrails or anything, but this is a good start. Now let's see if we can't refine this a little bit. Alright, this is take 2 right here, and I've basically just put up some big bricks on either side to block off the water flow. We are going to make that look much better if this works. Don't worry, this is simply for testing. But let's release the dam and see how it works this time. You know what? That's actually looking pretty cool. It's by no means perfect, but we're getting there. Alrighty, after a whole bunch of finagling with this thing, I think I finally have something that I'm happy with. Or at least stage 1 of the waterfall, that is. Stage 2 is we want it coming out of multiple points from the pond, so we're also going to have a waterfall coming out from there. There's a zombie under here somewhere, and I really don't want to go find him right now. So I think this one here is going to be a bit more steep. We're going to start about here, and we're just going to go up a whole bunch. Alright, it's simple, but I want to see how it works. And in all honesty, the answer might just be it doesn't work, but there's only one way to find out. So release the dam. You know, that actually worked a lot better than I thought it would. Just needs a little bit of help here, but I'm actually pretty happy with that. Now we have this big gap in the middle of the falls here, so we're going to start patching that up now. So I may have accidentally knocked out a couple extra blocks, and I actually think I like what it did to the waterfall. So we're going to add a little bit more texture to this rock going up in the center here, but for now I think I'm happy with it. We're going to add some walls and some different blocks and whatnot in there to, you know, smooth it out a little bit. But for now, we're looking for basic shapes. So I think we're good on the bottom part of the waterfall for now. Let's move on to the top side. And yes, I do promise we're going to move on to something, that's a wall. Something other than terraforming soon. Alrighty, so looking at things from the top side here, we've got our waterfall going from our midpoint to the bottom where the river's going to go down to the lake over there. But we haven't taken care of this part of the waterfall yet, which is going to go to a big lake at the top, which we will make at a later date. That'd be too much terraforming for today. And I do quite literally mean today. It is now Saturday, and this is supposed to be a Sunday upload, so we gotta get motoring. So I think the most visually appealing thing to do with the waterfall here is to have it come from this corner here. So the waterfall will come down from over here through the corner and then come down into these 2 falls here. Alrighty, let's try this out and see what happens. We'll make ourselves a little pond up here and release the dam. Alright, let's see what the damage is. Well, it definitely fanned out a lot more than I expected. Let's try stepping back and taking a look at this. I don't know. How about from down here? Nah, that just looks kind of wonky, doesn't it? I think it's too far over this way. I think I need to center it more, but still have it off to the side. And the top base needs to be larger. Alright, take 2, let's see how this goes. Well, it's definitely wider. Let's see how it looks from down here. You know what, that is looking a lot better. Not that I can't do with some improvements, but it's a good start. Now I do want to replace a lot of this dirt here with stone, but I'm thinking that's a not right now task. The first thing I want to do is actually down here. Oh, I just barely made that jump. I think it's time to fill in this hole and the one on the other side there. Make this into a full cliff again. There we go. This is looking pretty sweet, I think. I want to round out this corner a little bit more. It's looking a bit square, but overall, I'm pretty happy with this area. I think if I bring this out to like here or something like that and I start rounding it off, it'll look a lot nicer in this corner, but I'm going to do that a bit later. Right now, I want to turn my attention to this 1x2 pillar that we made earlier on. And that right there is going to be the center point for our bridge. And that's going to cross the gap between there and allow us to get between our melon farm over there and our pumpkin farm over there. But anyways, let's grab the materials we need for this bridge. Alrighty, I got a bunch of stone stuff together, and I managed to scrounge up the last of the stone that I have in this world. We're gonna have to hit the mines again, but not right now. Let's grab a little bit of everything here, and we'll bring our stone cutter with us too, and we'll plop it down right here where our bridge is going to be. So I'm thinking we get some deep slate tile here, and I want the bridge to be 5x5, so right here. That's going to be the outline for our bridge, so we may as well run this straight across. There we go. Now, I want to make sure that this here is still the middle point for our bridge, because we have adjusted the cliffs a little bit since we marked this. It's pretty close to the middle, so we'll keep that. Now, let's go out 3 blocks from either side, maybe. Actually, 5. Okay, and then 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. Those are going to be our pillars to hold up our bridge here. And actually, let's shrink this a little bit. That way these beams are only as big as the bridge, so it should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect. I decided that I wanted to get some cobblestone, so I came over to the house, and I'm heading back, and the waterfall looks really cool from this angle. It's kind of a shame that it's going to be partially covered by the bridge when we're all said and done. Maybe it's not too late to pivot and change the bridge a little bit. The way I have it set up here, a good portion of the waterfall is going to be blocked. Maybe if we change out these pillars a little bit, we can prevent that. I may have an idea. Bear with me here. Let's just go ahead by starting with a surface for the bridge. I want to give it kind of a ruined, stony look. There we go. We got a surface to walk across now, so let's turn our attention to the bottom of the bridge. So I'm thinking that we're going to grab a few tough stairs here, and maybe some slabs. And we're going to do a nice little design on the bottom of the bridge here. Nothing complicated, just something simple. Man, you know, I've had this stone bridge idea for here since basically the beginning of the series, but I gotta admit, I'm not loving it here. You know what? We're gonna do a complete 180 here. We are gonna rip it all out and start again. This right here, ladies and gentlemen, is the creative side of YouTube that you rarely see in Minecraft videos. It's not uncommon to hate what you build the first time and completely rip it out. Everyone does it. Even if you don't see it in the videos, they do it in a creative world when they're testing out their builds for Lightmatica or whatever. Or if they're freestyling like me, then they just don't include those parts in the video. But I think it's an important part to include in the video because it just shows that even though I can build, I don't always get it right on the first try. There we go. We got a clean slate and a whole bunch of blocks on the ground. Alright, so I've gathered my new materials here, and the idea that I came up with as opposed to the stone bridge is we're going to do a rope bridge. For anyone who watched my Skyblock Kingdom Season 1 series, we're going to do something similar to what I had between my nether islands. So I'm thinking what we're going to do is we're going to build up from here. And we know this is the terrain level there, so we want to go down a few layers, figure out how much of a sag we want to our bridge. I'm thinking we start with 3 blocks like this, and we just build it out and see how we like that shape first. Alright, let's see how this is. You know what? That's not half bad. Let's get some different angles. That may help us decide. Looks pretty good from over here, and from over here, and from up here. I think we're good to expand it. And then I'm thinking if we add in bits like this, it'll make it look like the bridge has more of a curve to it. Then we grab ourselves some of these here, and we start replacing random slabs with them. There we go, that adds a good amount of jank to the bridge. And now we gotta do the rope part of the rope bridge, so that's gonna be done with oak fences. First we'll just run fences like this. There we go, there's our base rope in, and now what we're gonna do is we're just gonna drop random ropes down like this. And once again, once we find them, we can always hang lanterns off of these too. And just like that, we have a rope bridge. It's simple, yes, but the most important thing here is it's low profile, so it doesn't cover up all the terraforming we've done. And it still gets us from point A to point B very nicely. But point A and point B are both empty still, so let's address that. You know what? Change of plans again. We're gonna leave that side of the bridge for now. We're gonna mostly focus over here. And I'm thinking right about here, in the area that we worked on closer to the beginning of the episode, is a good spot to put our pumpkin patch. Something like a so. Now we just gotta do our thing again to make it look good. Next are the paths, and then the pumpkins, which I have to force grow, the coarse dirt, and of course the regular dirt, and finally the leaves. And boom, pumpkin patch. Nice and easy. Alright, we have our melon farm here, and down here we have our pumpkin farm. What I'm thinking we're going to do is the in-between area here. I'm going to fill up with some sugarcane. It's not going to be like jam-packed or anything like that, but we're going to essentially decorate with sugarcane, and that'll be our farm for now. Because we really don't need a lot of it until we start using rockets, but we do have one small problem. I have no sugarcane at all, so we're gonna head west and hope that we can find some in the vicinity of where my horse can travel. Aha! Yoink, 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 yoink. And yoink. I'd say we found a good amount. Let's head home. Alrighty, we're back on the home front, so let's decide a few spots to put our sugarcane. So now the $1,000,000 question, if I waterlog this mangrove root, is it gonna leak down or is it just gonna stay there? Because it'd be nice if it just stayed there. It would save me a lot of work. And moment of truth, we appear to be good. There we go, waterlogged all the roots and I placed down some sugarcane. So we still have 48 left to go. So let's see if we can't place that around here. Alrighty, that's all the sugarcane that I have for now, and in between the sugarcane, in the little spaces, we're going to place some bamboo stalks as well. Diversifies our farm a little bit, and it looks cool with the sugarcane as well. I'm also going to spread a few of these in the field as well, just to add a splash of color. There we go, not bad at all. I'm going to let that keep growing because I'd like to expand it this way a little bit further before the end of the episode, but sugarcane is one of the slowest growing crops in the game, so we'll see how far we get. It's time to turn our attention to our final task of the day, and that is making sure this waterfall actually goes somewhere. Looks great if you look at it like this, but when you tilt down a little bit, it flows into a stone mess. So we're actually going to turn this here into a riverbed running down the ravine here, or valley, whatever you want to call it, and then flowing out into the lake over here. So for the final time today, it's time for another time lapse. You know, making a river seems easy until you actually try to do it. It takes a lot longer than you'd think. But yeah, off camera I decided to add a few more details. I added some flowers up there, some sugarcane along the river, as well as some seagrass in the river. I also took care of the coarse dirt along the shoreline here so that we have a good transition between the water and the landscape. But yeah, this is looking pretty sweet. And there are still more details that I'd like to add around the river here, but I am pretty well out of time here. But yeah, we have gotten an absolute ton done in this episode, and I have so much more planned for the future. I hope you guys are excited for that. But like I said, I am out of time, so I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.